Classes in session. Hey guys, welcome to Unlearn 16 classes in session, guys. Today, I'm sweating right through my shirt because I'm so nervous. I have Jann Arden on my I can't believe this. Hun, I want to say thank you so much. That was a nice hun, by the way. That
No,
wasn't a mean.
you've been it's persistent. I have to just, as a caveat, I don't look at social media all the time. Like, if I open it up and if it's in front of me, then I'll read it. And
Right.
I think people assume because I post a lot, I
Mm-hmm.
post and I get out of there. So
Yeah.
I don't go through or read a lot of stuff. So sometimes I'll stumble across something where people have had an exchange and they're trying to get my attention and I have no idea. But I would literally need 10 full-time people to read comments and do that. So I apologize.
Ooh.
I'm really, I love posting, but I just don't stay on to linger. So if you've been trying to seek me out, it's not because I've been ignoring or anything. Whenever I do catch your posts, I'm always very impressed with your candor. And it takes a lot of bravery, too, to get in and say things. And you have such a kind of a funny, humorous, very intelligent spin on the topics that you tackle, the people that you protect, marginalized people, the LGBTQ plus two spirit, the trans community. Anytime any of us sticks our necks out to even be an ally, um, it's amazing the vitriol you get. But it's just a bunch of lunatics being lunatics. But good on you. When I do see your stuff, I'm endlessly
Oh,
entertained for one thing. So it makes me kind of like stick it out because you're a very fact based, empathic, um, critical thinker, and you are thoughtful, and your stuff just isn't this opinion based stuff, which is all great. It's great to have an opinion, but it's so wonderful to have an opinion backed up by science, by integrity, by other people that are you know professionals. So anyways, good on you. That's my spiel. That's all the time we
love it.
have.
And that's great. Thank you so much. I'm going to use that as a clip for the rest of my life. Let's be honest. You know what's interesting is because obviously everybody on here that's going to be listening, I mean, they know who you are. They know who you are from your amazing music career. I laugh so hard at your show, Jan. I can't. It's like the perfect comedy show for me. Everybody knows these things about you. What I'm drawn to, sure, are those things. I mean, I've been to many a concert. I've sang along. My friend Stacy wanted to know she enjoyed your concert so much, and she got a little too intoxicated when you were in Oshawa. She's gonna kill me for saying this. And she had to go to the bathroom right outside the building, and I got a little bit of it on video.
I'm impressive.
That's how you overwhelmed her,
That's
Jen.
great. I like when people have to pee against buildings. I've peed in the odd garbage can in my life. Thank God social media didn't exist back in the day.
Can you
But
imagine if we were kids?
you know what, men? They whip it out and they pee pretty much anywhere. I cannot
Agreed.
tell you what happens here during Stampede Week in
That,
Calgary, Alberta, Canada. People are drinking their body weight in beer, and
right.
there's literally men urinating everywhere. At every dumpster, there's a guy swaying back and forth,
Oh,
holding on to his wiener and peeing, into a corner thinking he's invisible. Don't women have to be more inventive.
this
We
is
have to be
true.
we have to be a little more clever.
I feel
You
like
know,
that should be the commercial for the next Calgary Stampede.
yeah, anyway, it
That's
should be.
like
But
the
good
tagline.
on it, Stacy, no judgment.
No, the reason why, I mean, with social media, I get it. Get in, get out. If I really want to put myself in a bad mood, I stay on Twitter for about a half an hour. TikTok's a bit of a different story over there. I feel like it's a lot more nice and fun over there, whereas Twitter, I have to be bobbing and weaving a little bit more. But what I've been blown away by with you is the very things you were talking about when it came to what I do on that app, which is this amazing, authentic, um, right driven soul that you have, and your drive and your focus is protecting animals. is protecting animals across the board. And I want to talk about horse shit. I don't swear very often on my podcast,
Oh,
so there we go. I want you to be able to talk about horse shit. I want to talk about animal rights. This isn't something where it's necessarily my wheelhouse, but when I across it and when I listen to what you have to say, and it's just so simplistic and authentic and powerful. I want to be able to talk about it more, and then even better, I think I have a plan.
ah,
That's even better.
no,
I
that's
have
great.
I have more of a plan for that. But if you wanted to, I would love it if you would just share. Like this goes to the states a lot and stuff like that. I would love if you want to share about horseshit, about what you're doing, why you're doing it, how that is going on in Canada, about animal rights, whatever you think is,
Yeah, I certainly don't want to pontificate, but
you don't do that.
I love animals, and I always
Hmm.
did. I grew up in a rural community. I still live just a few miles from where I grew up. It's the area is called Springbank and Rocky View County. It's called a lot of different things now. When my folks moved us out here, like early '70s, it was really a bunch of farms, and now it's a very affluent, people with 10,000 square foot houses and
Yeah.
these massive properties and things like that. The agricultural element is slowly disappearing. But anyway, I my mom had tons of animals. We had horses. The neighbors had cows. There's chickens. It was just we had chores in the morning. So I grew up around animals, and my mom was she loved animals, and she just instilled that in all of us. And when she passed away, I started feeding birds. I hadn't really thought about it. I traveled a lot of the time, and when my mom passed away, I felt like I looked out my window where their house used to be, and I saw a bunch of birds looking at me, like, "Who will feed the
What the heck?
birds? What's happening?" And so I just started, and now I'm hooked. I have all kinds of animals. So that's just my love of animals in general. But on a deeper level, there's so many connectors to marginalized people. As a queer person
Yes.
myself, I'm always very conscious of how animals are very marginalized. They're you know People much smarter than me have made connections over the last several decades, even to slavery, and
Hmm.
how animals spend their lives indentured, and certainly animals that are used in the meat industry, which by the way is just billions and billions every year now, because our population is thus that imagine eating a happy hour barrel of chicken wings. You're eating 24 wings for $3. That's a lot of chickens.
Yeah.
And I've been vegan for 8 years. Long story short, I got involved with the horses several years ago, and I haven't looked back. And that is the live export of large draft horses that spend their lives in feedlots. They're born in muck up to their elbows, and then they're ushered onto large transport trucks, taken to the Calgary, Edmonton, or Winnipeg airports, and then they're crammed into wooden crates, like four at a time, and they just endure 8,000-kilometer, 16-hour flights. So sometimes they're in these crates for 35, 45 hours. None of the regulations are adhered to. There's no one checking. They always say there is. Oh, they're checked. There's nobody checking. They don't have the time. They don't have the manpower.
Right.
And it's just we've been trying to get it stopped for years. So, and it's an American company that came up here. You're talking about your American audience. They banned live export of horses in the United States in 2003. So, in 2006, their company moved up
Came-
to Alberta and just took up shop here because there's so many loopholes agriculturally. And so they've just been quietly doing it. The flights go out like at 4 o'clock in the morning. And but yeah, animals. You don't want to be an animal on this planet in 2023. The brutality is worse now than it ever has been. There's very few improvements. And
Mhm.
Canada is one of the last countries on the planet doing live horse exports. And imagine the Budweiser horses. These aren't ponies. These are large musculature because they're eaten raw. So they fly them live because they need to be killed pretty much immediately and eaten immediately. and they want a big muscle. It's served like sushi. It's like a little piece of raw red meat over a nice little package of rice and dipped in soy sauce. And that's what the rich folks are eating over there. It's certainly not on the plate of everyday Asians or Japanese people or Korean people. It is very much a delicacy, and they're making a lot of money doing it. And
Right.
that's all the time we have. And thank you, Joe. And goodbye.
I know that you sat down with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Did you get? How did you feel about that? I mean, I saw. Did you
Hmm.
feel any movement? I mean, he has the power to do something. Let's be perfectly honest. Did you feel any movement there?
He does and he doesn't. I think there's a lot of criticism that way. He did seek me out. I was in Ottawa, Canada Day,
Right.
and his folks got in touch with the record label, and the record label got my manager, and my manager tracked down my road manager, and he came in, knocked on my door, and said, "Can you be ready in 25 minutes to see the Prime Minister?" And I said, "Yes." And basically, what he wanted to tell me is like, "I know this is a cash grab, Jan. I know it's terrible, but I want you to know that you are being heard. You and your team, your horseshit team, are being heard." And he said, as far as mandating, he said, I'll be stopped at every turn, everything he does. He has an opposition right now that
Yep.
if he had the cure to cancer, Pierre Poilievre would shut him down. So you're dealing with someone's narcissism that is at such a high level that it's not about serving the people, it's about his power. And I don't know what happened to the man in his life. I don't know what makes a person like that and why we end up with people going into politics that are absolutely not fit to really lead and inspire people and to make changes and to support people. Anyway, long story short, he just said the faster way is a private member's bill, which have on the floor now. It's going to its second vote November the
Amazing.
10th. And
Amazing.
we also have a bill in the Senate. So there's two bills that are absolutely about banning the live export of horses. And he wanted to explain that to me. He's just like, this is the way to go. He said, this can't be stopped. He said, if there's more people that vote to end it than not, this will go
Right.
through, and they
Right.
can't screw around. And for him to take the time to do that
It's amazing.
was very remarkable to me. But
Hmm.
he can't sign an order. The
Oh yeah. No, I didn't think he could. I
Yeah,
didn't think he
but
could.
a lot of people think he can do it, and unfortunately, legislature doesn't work that way. And if it was, it would be kind of a scary way if there was one guy that could just make these unilateral decisions. But anyway,
Absolutely.
we're getting there, Joe. We're getting there.
So because I mean, obviously, I talk about these things in my classroom, and I'm constantly trying to figure out new caveats, new ways, and I always do it through education. I mean, I understand that I'm a politics teacher, but I also understand the frustration you have with the political world and the way it works. And I've been asked to maybe run. Actually, it was funny. I just met a lot of great folks from your neck of the woods, like Jann Arden. I was at
Yes,
one of the
I'm a
conventions.
huge fan of Janice. She too is another really intrepid human that gets out there and puts it all on the line and
Mhm.
takes a lot of crap from people. So
But it's silly crap. I
yeah,
mean, we both take it on you know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things where people think they're going to comment on my hair or going to comment on what
your
sex I
hair's
am.
awesome.
But, but it's like, where do you think you're hurting me with that, hun? Like, where do you really think? If you can tell me that my logic is flawed, if you can tell me that my thoughts are broken or I'm missing something or I'm not getting to the point, cool. I'm going to listen to that even if I don't agree with it, but bring that on. But I don't know who thinks I'm 8 years old anymore, worried about what you say about my clothes. I don't,
It
nobody's really
that
giving a shit about that.
that kind of narrative comes from people that absolutely have no facts. They're not critical thinkers. They haven't picked up a book. They're in an echo chamber. They're simply repeating a thread of a conversation on social media. They don't even know probably what the original comment was about, but they're going to chime
Right.
in because
Sure.
they feel powerless. You know what I hear all the time is anything that I comment on, whether it's something to do with being opposed to our current premier, Danielle Smith. I hate to even say her name,
Ooh,
or
just
Pierre
keep it out.
Poilievre.
Swear
Uh,
word.
they just call me fat, and they call me ugly, and they call me irrelevant, and they
Uh,
call me a has been. And I am always thinking to myself, better to have been than to not have been at all.
Well,
And fat, if that's the best you have,
they
then I
can't.
know. But then there's part of me that actually kind of kicks me in my own butt and says, "You've got to find some kind of empathy for these people." It comes from such a lack of the feeling of having no power. They feel like they have no say. They feel invisible. So the only recourse for them is to insult, to jab, to punch, to light a building on fire, to get someone to go, "Here, I am here." And
Yeah.
I find that, and they don't even understand that that's a political atmosphere that the people that they have chosen to lead them has
Mhm.
created for them. It's
Yeah.
made them invisible because
Mhm.
the only way they have to um, express themselves is through vitriol, not discussion, not like you said, if you've got a problem with my thoughts or a point that I'm making,
Mhm.
bring at it. But when I hear that over and over and over again, my irrelevance, and I'm like, by the fact that you are even writing a comment to me
You just
and
made me more
responding,
wretched.
yeah, but they don't understand the irony of it because they don't know what the word irony means. And so my heart breaks a little bit because I'm in a position where I do have a platform. I could have the media at my door in 5 minutes. If I really had an issue, I could make a phone call. And that's been 40 years of working at my job. And I'm not just singing, I'm a writer and I'm a
Hater.
podcaster and I'm a whatever it is that I do. But I do have some sympathy for feeling that lost in it all. It's got to be frustrating.
I 100% agree. I don't do it as much on comments, but I do a lot of lives and I do a lot of things like that. And I'll have people coming in and punching like that. You know what I mean? What is this it or whatever they say? And it's funny because the world I've kind of created on TikTok, anyways, is this world where they know not to, don't engage, don't get mad, give me a minute. Give me a minute to address them. And maybe 1 out of 10 times, the person that's saying, "What is this it?" or blah, blah, whatever they're
Yes.
saying about me, I say, "Hold on, let's just pause. Let's just pause and have a conversation for a second. Listen to me for 5 minutes, huh? Like give me 5 minutes. And if you don't think I have something to offer, you don't think I'm leading with authenticity and a good heart, please continue and then go about your day." And every once in a while, Jan, I win one of those people over and I feel like a superhero.
Yeah.
Everybody calms, and all of a sudden they're coming back consistently to those conversations. So, and they might not agree with 80% of what I have to say. They still might stand opposed to me, sort of economically or somewhat politically, but in a humanitarian
Yeah.
connection, let's talk to each other. That's the connection we're making. That's
Well,
the
they
connection.
can't believe it. They can't believe that you're taking time to explain and to hear them, because then they know they have nowhere to go. And good for you for doing that. If we don't care about people we don't know, all is lost. If we
Agreed.
only care about the people that we know that are close to us, if we only care about the people within arm's reach, if we only care about our cousins and our three neighbors down the street, if we only care about them, then all is lost. So we have to care about the people that dislike us the most, and we have to care about the people that are only yelling because they don't know what else to do.
Mhm. I think, and going back to sort of your original mandate, very long time ago, I saw a documentary called Food Inc. Have you ever seen it? It's an old, yeah. It's one of I've seen a lot. It's really powerful, and the person that's most powerful in that documentary actually is the gentleman who's the farmer. I don't know if you remember his scene right in the middle of that thing. And in the middle of all of that, he says, and he's a farmer and he's not vegetarian or vegan. He's not advocating for necessarily everybody to stop. He's saying if we don't treat the most vulnerable with empathy and respect as creatures on this planet, right? That feeling, that sociopathic kind of inside momentum will carry out to other people in this world. And you don't have to look too far when you're thinking about the individual that harms their own pet. The person that is hurting their own dog or their own animal or whatever, they're 5 seconds away. Stop, I'll cry. I can't. They're 5 seconds away. If you don't care about animals, they're 5 seconds away from hurting family members
Oh, it's
because
all
it's the
it is.
same
It's connected.
connection, right? And I think that kind of power, that is the thing that needs to be addressed, is this idea that what we're teaching by allowing that level of factory farming, feedlots, cows eating corn for the love that's all rational, it doesn't make any sense, right? But we're teaching it, Jan.
Yeah.
We're teaching all of those things by not addressing them. So when I said I had a plan, I have a plan. I believe, because we're both, obviously you're in Alberta, I'm in Ontario, but education is provincial. So we can change government all we want and force through mandates and legislation and all of those things and push those grown men and women to do the right thing. But the problem is, some of them, a lot of them, never were given the opportunity to have this information put in front of them. Why isn't it in our curriculum? And I'm not talking about advocating how you should eat and I am
Exactly.
saying,
This is what
how
happens.
do we not?
This is how this system works. This is how the
But
system works, and this is,
that's how we change
that
this.
whole thing about, we feed 50 or 60 billion farm animals every year, millions of which die every day, and we can't feed 8 billion people. But we can, like the water, this isn't sustainable for a million reasons. They are deforesting, they are clearing the Amazon to graze cattle. They are clearing forests. They are 75%. This is fact. This is not some fictitious thing. 75% of land use in the United States of America, and we could comparatively say that that is a number that very easily bleeds into the same continent of land use,
Mhm.
is for meat and the production of meat. So it's unthinkable. The water to hydrate and raise cattle,
And ship.
ship them, whatever the case may be. I mean, you talking about a carbon footprint, just getting back to the horse shit thing. Everything we're being asked to do by some governments, I mean, do as I say, don't do as I do, right? But carbon footprint, fly less, eat local, eat more plants, meatless Monday,
Right.
be mindful to take a more ecological vacation, do something local. It's the antithesis. Flying giant horses 8,000 kilometers away for wealthy people to eat, because there they don't have the land, they don't have the water, they don't have the resources to raise an animal of that size and stature. They know it's detrimental to their tiny environment in Japan and Korea and Asia, surrounding areas. They know it's not manageable, but rich people will pay for somebody else to wreck their stuff so that they can do that just out of sheer convenience.
Right.
So it's so, a 4-year-old will tell you that it's wrong. I trust a 4-year-old logic. I trust those kids. You can ask them a question, you can give them a scenario. What do you think of this?
Hmm.
They'll tell you it's wrong. And they'll tell you how silly it is. So, but Joe, education, all those old adages about if slaughterhouses were glass, if people could see that, if they could show children, but kids are getting it. The internet, right? They're
Yeah.
able to now
100%.
look up. That's why they ag gag. That's why all new laws just came into Canada again. They just voted them through in the House that they will arrest and they'll basically throw people away that are exposing animal cruelty in agricultural settings. It's just like, oh my God,
Is
why
that
is this?
is that a federal law?
It's federal.
See, at the end of the day, though, we can't. I'm going to have to look into that law, so I don't know how it applies specifically. But at the end of the day, creating a course creating a piece of education, passing different provinces, and then pushing that through so that a 16-year-old has the choice to sit down and learn about political systems, economic systems, world religions, math, science, and how on God's green earth are they not learning about the food they eat, where it comes from, and how it works,
Yes, good.
right?
Yep. Yep.
There's the change, because I'll tell you, Jan, I work with them for 21 years. They're so much smarter than us. They're so much more aware than us, just like you said about that 4-year-old. But we need to give them the tools. They should be demanding the tools and the educational resources to understand how it works. And any government that says that can't be a course, yet that's what's on my plate, how do you fight that in the media?
No, it's nonsensical. Education is the way forward. It's like anything else. We're finally getting at a place with the live horse exports because of awareness. So very
There it
much
is.
like you say, of course, awareness. When and Oprah, God, she said some great things over the years, but when you know better, you do better.
Right.
And you can't unknow things.
Mm-hmm.
That's why most of us have PTSD, because
It's like,
we're just kind of locked and loaded, and it all affects us. And kids have so much on their plates, no pun intended, so much on their plates that you know I, knowledge they know is power. They know that the more that they know, they can fight the political system. They can, all these people are going to be able to vote in a few years as well, and that's where the power lies. Is not having Pierre Poilievre, not having men and women like that running for office and being in being in power. It's so scary to me watching this unfold because of hatred. We hate this guy so much that we're going to get this guy in who we also don't like. Like, holy Moses, what a way to make a choice. What a
well,
way to
that's,
inform your political future. And because based on who you hate less.
yeah. Well, that's been the way it's been, in Canada for, well, in general for quite some time, but specifically in Canada, because we have I know we have more than three, but three main political parties. And it's always strategically, where am I going to vote? So this person doesn't get in. So this person doesn't get in. But the thing about fear and its opposition, which is education, the reason why it's such a driver, and you've tapped into it already, is because when I don't have the knowledge, when I'm scared that I can't put food on the table, when my family is broken, when my job has gone to another country, when all of these things are true, and an individual gets up there and says, I know who to blame, it's them.
Yeah.
Right? Who does that remind you of in 1939? It's the same mentality. It's the same, but it drives this very fundamental thing in somebody's gut that not only do they not have the resources or the intelligence to pick better, but maybe they don't have the fortitude to pick better because they're so afraid. They're so afraid that turning that stone and that sort of mirror helps mitigate that,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So listen, this is what I want to do with you. And I know you've given me a lot of your
No,
time, and I know
no,
you're very busy with
no, we're
your
good.
bird.
I'm
We're
sitting here
good?
with sleeping dogs. Yeah, we're fine. We're
Okay.
totally fine.
Okay, fantastic. I honestly believe, and I know you have 7,000 things to do, but I would love to try to create a course, create a curriculum that taps in unit by unit the things that you would find the most essential on sort of a base level, in order to create a course that mirrors
Yes,
that reflects that, because then it's something tangible. And to be honest, Jan, it's something I could teach anywhere, right?
100%.
It doesn't matter where it is, but you want to go through a course. People are often like, Joe, can you just teach me grade 10 history? And I'm like, well, no, I got to teach my grade 10s. But people are dying for information. And you said the internet's just a beautiful thing, which it is, but holy crap, is it overwhelming?
Well,
So,
find the answer you want to find, even if it's an incorrect answer. You'll find an argument for it. So yeah, you need a human being standing in front of you, compassionately giving you options about ideas. And once again, that whole idea about being a critical thinker, getting your information from more than one source. It's what's happened. It's what happened with COVID and
uh,
vaccines and all the stuff where people are getting information that's absolutely egregious. It's just not real. It's not steeped in anything real, but you will never undo whatever that they've seen or heard or whatever. And because they've so invested themselves, they will die denying the truth. And we saw that over and over again. We saw people on their deathbeds in the United States saying, I don't have COVID.
yeah,
We saw it all over the world that they were just so invested in, I'm not going to be duped. I'm not going to succumb to science. I'm not going to believe it. It's
right.
really hard to watch it. I just got my sixth COVID shot, my booster, and I haven't even posted that because I'm like, you know what? I don't think I'm up for that today.
That
Right
plate, yeah,
today, I'm not quite up for you fat whatever blah blah blah. I'm like I don't even want other people to see it on my feed because my friends and my fans are more upset by that than usually I am, and it's
sure,
disruptive to anything else you want to do during the day. So I
right,
haven't I'm not even mentioning it. But if there's
yeah.
any way I can help you, or be part of this type of a course, if I can be a guest speaker or someone that can talk about the live exports or, becoming a plant based person and all the myriad reasons why that happened and how that has to do with alcoholism and, being marginalized and all those things, they're all interconnected.
They really are.
It would be very much so, and unraveling that as I'm getting older has been alarming and kind of liberating to see the connectors and wondering, this is why we do this, and this is why we're controlling this, and this is why we don't want to be told this. But honestly, like I said, animal agriculture, the demented nature of it, and the massive scale,
Corporate
like
scale.
people cannot fathom what it takes. Walk into a ball stadium next time, and any of you guys listening, if you're going to, like in Toronto, I went to my first ball game, and I couldn't even enjoy myself because I was thinking about the how many people are in there? 30, 40,000.
50,000. Yeah, I think
Okay.
you get.
It was full. And I was
Yeah,
like, oh my God, I feel like a Roman gladiator, like walking
yeah,
in. And I'm thinking, these people are going to have one or two hot dogs. They're going to
yeah.
have wings. They're going to have nachos with fucking pork or whatever. Sorry, I didn't mean to swear. But it overwhelmed me for a second. I was taken aback by the amount of cruelty, the amount of animals that had to be involved with the cheese sauce, with every aspect of that game, the leather on their gloves, everybody's shoes. I just was like, holy cow. And it bothered me to the point where like something really does have to give. This isn't it's immoral, and we have to have a better compass. It's our responsibility. I put this on my Instagram the other day. Forget who said it. We have to have a better moral compass than our parents or our grandparents. We have to be more ethical. It's up to
Hmm.
us. It's not the circle of life. Well, that's the way things are done. It's not that.
Oh,
That's a lie people tell you. That's a lie so that cruelty can continue, that they can keep cutting tails off, that they can keep branding animals, that they can cut their, castrate them without any anesthetic. The things that go on in order to make it work, it's unthinkable. And because I've taken the time to know, yeah, I'm bothered by it pretty much 24 hours a day.
yeah. I think also, when you talked about your grandparents, your great, that those generations, funnily enough, were more ethical because they didn't have this mass corporate formation of
You're right.
consumption. They're, and I often talk about that because I've people, obviously I know people who are indigenous, I know people who hunt, I know people, and I'm like, listen, Hunting an animal, killing that, being respectful to that, using every piece. Do you think that all reflects what I'm talking about when I talk about the way that Tyson does chicken? Like, it's not in the
There's no
same hemisphere.
correlation. There's no
None.
correlation. And anyone that
Absolutely.
assumes that I would think that, when I talked about the seal hunt, which is the commercial hunting of seals, a bunch of guys running around like maniacs, this
Yeah.
mass culling. Do you think it has anything to do with an Inuit family, Inuit community taking what they need, making clothes? There's no correlation. And you know what? I
None.
shouldn't need to preface that by going, "Oh, there's a caveat here." I don't need to do that, because and any indigenous person has to be appalled at the wastefulness and the
Oh,
mass
disgusting.
abuse. You know,
Yes.
I have a very good indigenous friend that go berry picking. I've been berry picking with them many times over the years, and I've learned a lot from just being out with her and her kids. And it's just like, we only take half, and she's always kind of admonishing her girls, but her girls know, don't pick everything off the tree. Leave half. Just take the half, because the kids are like, "Oh, those are good ones." She goes, "No, leave them, because." And I'm listening in. She's, "No, the birds." She goes, "The bears eat those." She goes, "Everybody needs to have their share."
Mhm.
And so I used to just pick the damn things. I'd like take every berry off, and I'd walk away from the poor Saskatoon bush like there ain't nothing left. And it
Right.
almost embarrassed me, because I didn't stop long enough to think about everybody else that was in line for this stuff. So
Hmm.
you're right. And thank you for pointing that out, because it's not, if you're out hunting, to support your family, as much as I could never do that, people don't understand. Listen, if you're walking through a grocery store, um, you don't think about what happened to those animals. So,
Yeah, you really
anyway,
don't. Well, that's the separation, right? That's the brilliance that they've done. That's the little dance that they do when they package it and they clean it, and it's very much removed. I spent a few years ago, 2016 maybe. I was in Tanzania, and I was with my students. We were building a school, a foundation. Anyways, it was a life. It's absolutely amazing, but these individuals, like this community we were with, they obviously relied on animals, but they were very, very limited in how they would use that animal, if they were going to use that animal, and how they would share food. And as a thank you, as a tribute, um, this community that we helped gifted us a goat for the celebration, and my kids were like, a goat, like they didn't quite get what what it was a gift for. And so we took it back, and I had some of my students, I'm like, guys, listen, we're going to gift this. You can love this goat. We'll gift it to somebody else, but we will provide something for the celebration for these people. We will buy that. But I don't think you guys want it to be this goat. But then we had this beautiful conversation with some Maasai and people of that community. And they talked to my kids. Some of them didn't want any part of it. They talked to the kids about how they would, like, what would be involved in slaughtering the goat, and how they would give thanks, and how they would use it, and I had kids, Jen, like, I was there because my kids were, I mean, I knew it was going to happen, but I needed to be there, because if we don't put ourselves in that position, we don't know. We don't know. And if we don't know, how dare we walk around with our collars popped, proclaiming that we're some sort of, evolved individual? And again, I'm not, advocating the way people live and what they eat is one thing, but talking about the commercialization, and it's all about profit, and it's all about billion-dollar companies making more money, not about health and welfare of people. Even when you come down to how sick we all get from eating the food that's been produced the way that we've talked about it.
oh, it's an endless stream. But even within tradition, there lies problems as well. And
Sure.
traditions can tangle us up in lifestyles that aren't necessarily the correct way to treat the planet. When you have
Mhm.
visibly upset children that are learning that lesson, like kids, when you walk by the aisle and you see ground round and when you see
Yeah.
sirloin steaks,
Yeah.
I've often thought, how interesting would it be? And we saw this happen with the tobacco industry over the years. Is all of a sudden we started seeing freaking weird teeth and lungs and these little pictures on the cigarette package. We're like, oh my
Right.
God, that's the
Half
worst. Is
package,
that a
yeah.
tongue? Like, what am I looking at? And when they were having the conversation about smoking causes cancer, and the big tobacco companies were losing that battle, and they had to sticker the products, and I often thought, man, it'd be so great if we could sticker meat, if we could sticker, you know, a million chickens hanging by a foot, foaming at the mouth, making this pathetic sound, being wung around a conveyor, a living, breathing animal that it's unbelievable to me. It's a far cry, and you said it very succinctly, Joe, of grandparents and great grandparents going out into a yard. And most people did live rural. Most people didn't live in
Mhm.
cities because they had to have eggs and things and milk, and they were making a living and they worked the land. And but they'd go out. My grandmother Bentley and grabbed a chicken and twisted its head, and it was in the pot about 10 minutes later. And that chicken lived a grand life, a privileged life of table scraps and a life with family and all of it. Like, and I'm not saying so. That ship has sailed. It wasn't in a crate, profoundly modified where the breasts are so big in 6 weeks that it can't hold itself up. Um, what we're doing is profoundly immoral, and I don't know how we get back to it. But veganism is a clear highway to one of the biggest ways of saving the planet, and some of the greatest minds that we have, whether it's Bill Gates, whether it's Jane Goodall. These are people that are living on the front lines of environmental issues and animal issues and human issues, and they're telling us this is the way forward. And cruelty has a profound effect karmically on us as well. And you alluded to that. I can't quite remember how you put it, but just how it permeates our day-to-day lives of what's happening to other beings. You
It
know,
reduces it reduces
yeah,
our ability to empathize.
yeah, that was very well said. And I'll think about that for a long time. And it's the truth. But something's got to give. It can't. It's not sustainable. And we're seeing a planet that's it's leaning in on itself, and it's tired. And people are feeling it. The stuff in the Middle East has. It's almost like, oh no, another thing. Ukraine, Russia was happening, and the collateral damage of animals, like women, children, people that are not fighting, people that are not sending bombs, the collateral damage of birds, billions of birds, millions and millions of cats and dogs and lambs and sheep, and it's just the world feels it, and we feel it because we're so connected. Like,
Mhm.
I haven't had a decent night's sleep in 3 weeks because I keep thinking how grateful I am to be in my house and to live in these trees. But I cannot extricate myself, which you have reminded us all of my connection to them. And this is happening to real people
Mhm.
and real animals. There's some kid holding on to a dead kitten right now in the rubble, covered in
Mhm.
soot, and doesn't even know where to have a drink of water. It's wrong what's going on. So these are all interconnected things, the way we're treating each other living things. And there's a way of doing this that's got to be better. And maybe you're right, this does start with education. How do we teach people a different way, Joe? How do we teach a different way of thinking and making our way through the world? I don't know.
Well, I think it has to start. I mean, I think it starts with the course that we hopefully that we get to talk about and sort of build out, because it's definitely not. I don't want to pretend, I don't want to give the pretense that this is my wheelhouse, because it's not. Like, I mean,
No,
I
we're all
feel
learning.
a little educated, not a lot educated. But I remember with the war in Kuwait a long time ago, obviously, when when NATO went in, or the United States went in and bombed the heck out of it, and there was oil literally raining from the. Do you remember that? Do you remember those images? And there was this image in a movie. It was just a movie. I don't know if it was real life. And it was a very symbolic, a white horse just being covered in oil in the middle of these fields that Saddam had set on fire as we're bombing the hell out of it. And I remember watching that. I think it was in Jarhead or something. I remember watching that and I thought, now there's the symbol. And again, people like to disconnect themselves from animals. Go ahead and try to do that all you want. But that gets to be a symbol of things that are vulnerable that we don't care about, but that are going to be burdened with the weight of all of the horrible things we choose to do or we allow to happen. There it is. And there's an innocence there, because what the fuck? They've never done a single thing wrong, yet they're bearing the weight of everything we are doing. And what are we doing it for? Well, the answer is easy. We're doing it for profit. And there's I say these things, everybody calls me a communist, 7 ways to Sunday. But communism was all about profit too. Nobody really watched those countries. Listen, we do it for profit. We do it because we think it makes sense that my government, my corporation, my people make more money than your people do. So I get to control and wield how we do things so I can make more. It's about that mass consumption. So, of course, we would look at animals the same way. We look at everything the same way.
Well, think about the correlation with religion of what you were just saying. Bearing the
Mm.
weight, sacrificing one's own life for the good of the people so that they can go on. There's so many ideological, the dogma of religion, of how we put ourselves above. Well, no, this was our God-given right.
It
These
is.
animals
Oh,
here, the Bible sent us off in a direction that we were it's just been such a fight the last 2,000 years to try and explain stuff that was written by a bunch of guys. Of course, the stuff that the women wrote, any testimony was long since buried in some
all
cave in a
thrown out.
jar
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, yeah. That
But I
doesn't make
mean,
it in.
it's just nobody sees that. They still don't accept it. They don't. That's always going to be something. But just that it's our right. It's our God-given right to take
And
the
it goes,
lives of others and to discriminately do what we need to do in order for us to survive. We're not going to
yeah.
survive without animals. That I know. I don't want to live
No.
in a world with no animals.
Well, we wouldn't listen. David Suzuki once said, if ants died, all the ants on the planet died today, this earth would shut down, would begin to die immediately. And this is the unfortunate reality. If all humans were off the planet, the world would get healthier immediately.
I
Immediately. I'm
know.
not
I love it.
advocating, I'm not advocating
No,
anything.
no,
I'm
no. I love it. It's
I'm
it's the
simply
truth.
saying, right? This is where the problem lies, in our great intellect, in our great ability to think and critically analyze. This is what separates us from the animals, yet we are utilizing it in such a fashion that we want, what, a $300,000 car? That that's the goal of our society, because it's all intertwined, right? It's all connected.
Yeah, we want raw horse at a fancy restaurant in Japan somewhere to impress our friends. They're
And
probably
how is that? There it is. And how is that? But it's all driven by, and I hate to say this because again, I don't like giving, I guess, a voice to anything ridiculous, but the "Make America Great Again" logo, the cliche, the tagline, is unfortunately goddamn brilliant, because it's tapping into exactly what you said: tradition and nostalgia. And if you can tap into that in a person, in a heartfelt, like in a
a
book, it's
good
a book.
old day.
The good old day. Everybody wants, when you were 8, everything was the good old days if you lived in a half decent house. Why? Because you weren't too unaware of why it was crappy.
No,
So you
you didn't know
tap into
outside of
that.
that. No, they took you to the Shriners Circus to see a fucking dancing bear and an elephant,
Yes.
but you didn't think about what was behind that. Everything seemed great. You got your souvenir, you
Yes.
came home and had a hot dog, and watched Disney and
And felt good.
didn't know any of the crap about Walt Disney or any of it. Everything seemed, because it was clandestine, and it was mired in just cloaked in kind of darkness. The horses have always gone out at 4 o'clock in the morning. There's 10-foot walls around the building where they're loaded into now. Everything's done so that people don't know. They hate me. They hate what the Canadian Horse Coalition has done, because it's awareness. This is what's happening behind,
There it
because they
is.
knew people aren't going to like this. They're not going to like the idea of a horse kicking and foaming at the mouth and being terrified, falling on top of each other in severe turbulence going over the Pacific Ocean, never being able to right themselves. Doesn't matter if their legs are broken and one of them's dead in the crate. That's okay, because we can still eat the other three and kill that right away. It happens all the time. But once the wheels are up, it's the importer's issue, not the exporter. Anyway, but
Right.
it's all the interconnected. What we don't know is the good old day.
That's it.
So
That's
the seeming, like, if you want to look at, you talked about 1939 and a very sinister thing happening, and it's happened many times on this
many
planet.
times in many different ways and always the same goddamn plan. You dehumanize, you make them whoever they are, you make them less human. And my problem with that is you turn them into what? Animals. If we didn't view animals
Animals,
with such
animals.
derogatory, we wouldn't be able to utilize that fundamental principle to minimize humanity in order to do to a group of humans what we consistently do across this world.
To
Right?
animals, constantly,
There it
every
is.
day.
There it is.
Yeah, it's impossible to unhook them from each other. It's impossible.
Mhm.
Well, what are we going to do? Like, if we stop eating cows, and then what happens to all the cows? You stop impregnating them, and you
Yeah.
stop mass producing
Forcibly.
them. And guess what? They just diminish. You have a few kicking around. Do you want to, like, graze land and maybe do it properly and actually have grazers that bring a lot of positivity to how grasses
There's a
grow?
brave new, right? Yeah.
It's all interconnected, but I had to give up how I used to run my industry. Hundreds of thousands of us in the music industry had to submit to a new world of streaming. We had to let go of old ideas. We had to let go of the idea of a compact disc and an 8-track tape and a cassette and an LP, although there's still LPs
The
kicking around.
LPs are coming back. Come on
Yeah,
now.
we had to give up 90% of income streams. We had to really just rely on live work.
Bring,
And
yeah.
we did it because the world was changing and it wasn't sustainable, the model that they had. But you tell that to the meat industry. So I had to face it. Hundreds of thousands of my fellow collaborators had to do it. It wasn't negotiable. Napster came, income streams disappeared, thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people lost their jobs because they weren't needed. So you look at animal agriculture.
Mhm.
The model's changing. So dairy farms are closing down constantly. It's unprecedented what's happening now in the United States in particular. Thousands of dairy farms. If you go in and you see plant-based milks now, the case is getting wider and wider and wider. In the UK, they're even more farther ahead of us than we are.
Right.
It's not sustainable. There's a backlash with young people that you said, you're 16-year-olds, you're 15-year-olds. Those guys that are learning, like, I don't need to drink milk to get calcium. This isn't, it's part of the food pyramid in North America because of lobbyists and because of people paying big money to have dairy right smack dab in the middle of that triangle. It is a lie of epic proportions. You can get more calcium from spinach than you ever will from a glass of milk.
And dairy is quite problematic. Like, again, everybody talks about what you get from
But why
it.
don't they have to change, Joe? That's my question. Why
Well,
doesn't
because
that industry have to change? Because the world is changing. What? And they're like, no,
I'll
it's
tell
our
you what,
livelihood. What about my fucking
wait, wait.
livelihood?
Your livelihood wouldn't have changed either unless it was forced. So, the all of those industries you're talking about are never ever ever giving it up. It can never be left up to them. It can't be. And the only reason the music industry had to it had to shift because all of a sudden there was a power shift because I could record something and throw it on my computer and send it to my friend in Germany like that.
But the
All of a sudden
consumer liked it.
there it is.
The consumer liked the convenience.
And it was less expensive and it
It was
was
less
less
expensive.
everything. You don't need a
Imagine the
case.
disc.
I have a case
Imagine
of
the
CDs.
plastic. Imagine the hundreds of millions of plastic discs that are now not being made. That is,
They're
they're
in my
all in the
closet
landfill.
right now. This many, like I have a book of CDs. I'm like, what do I do with these
But
anymore? I have
imagine millions and millions and millions of gallons of water. Imagine the hundreds of millions of cubic yards of methane,
Mm.
CO2, like all those things that dairy is massively responsible for. Cow shit a lot, piles of it.
And you have to
And
get it all out of there.
you have to take it somewhere and do something with it. So that that is just once again our 4-year old is showing up. Well, then don't do that anymore.
Mhm.
Use plants.
And we'll adjust.
We'll
We'll
adjust.
adjust.
And the
You know,
convenience, and people will feel better. I love it that they're like, well, I'm lactose intolerant. Well, you're drinking a cow's baby's milk. I haven't had a crap for 6 days because my husband and I ate so much cheese on the cruise ship. Well, don't eat cheese because your
remember that?
digestive system is being bombarded with stuff it cannot work with. So, but oh no, we're going to fight it. Why, Joe? Oh, it tastes so good.
And and even bigger than that, it's because there's lots of things that taste good. Because I think even bigger than that, you're tapping into what they've always done and what they've always done, whether that be TV shows they watch, whether that be the clothes that whatever. There's a sense of comfortability with that and a sense of peace and a sense of consistency. And I think people are so desperate to ward off rampant change. Because let's be honest, the last 20 years, since the invention of the internet, the rate of change has been at a higher, graph line that I could even every second is changing. And that makes us all, we nobody likes change, but it makes us all very, very anxious. And all we're trying to hold on to are things that are the same. So that doesn't feel so, it's a mind melt. Like it doesn't work, but we're trying real hard to keep it in there because it makes us feel safe and in control. Two things we know deep down we're not. We can't be. Because guess what? You want to talk about rates of cancer? And I know it's
Oh, well, it's just like, would you like the same cancer treatment that they offered you 50 years ago?
exactly.
I want
Well,
the science. I want the change. I want the innovation of great thinkers. I want the innovation of discovery. So I do. I love change. I like. I mean, I don't want to like abandon my house. I don't want to move and things like that. I'm terrible with things like that. I love my trees and my house. So I totally am with you on that 100%. But as far as the innovation and what's available to me and how things can be easier to me and make my life easier, but more how it can help the planet. Like I'm so interested in all those kinds of things. But I just I'm so intrigued by your idea of this course
and
in
then we got to go province to province, Jan,
well
because
I don't
it's not a federal course, right? It can't be, and it's kind of the brilliance of it, because provincial governments are much more easily accessible and
yeah
not easily
I'm
real,
so
but they're
interested. You know, the funny thing, I don't know if what you know about me, but my childhood dream was to be a teacher. So my childhood dream was to be you.
There
My childhood dream was to be an academic. I've always loved literature and
you
reading.
are.
But my dream was to be, in university. I even pictured myself with glasses. I didn't have glasses at the time. And I pictured myself in one of those big lecture halls and learning and having my book bag and going to school and saying, Miss Richards, can you those are my dreams. And the odd thing that life does sometimes is it picks you up and moves you. And I was singing in bars, and I was out of high school and on the streets, and then I was writing songs. But I never thought, I can't, someone like me can't do someone like that. And all of a sudden I'm in my late 20s. Academia is further and further away, and I thought, I'm not smart enough. I don't have what it takes to do that. It's too late. And I was working with people, and they're like, we can get you. I mean, it took forever to get a record deal, but here I am. But just the idea of just teaching people, that to me is the profession of one of the greatest professions in all of human history, and is the only hope for us to go forward is education. Knowledge is peace.
Hmm.
Knowledge is freedom. Knowledge is liberation. Knowledge is love. Knowledge holds the key. Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, all those people, all those great thinkers can tell you that. And the ideas haven't changed in thousands of years of how important it is to know oneself and to know others and to know stuff and to keep knowing it. So I honor you, Joe. I just
But
think,
you are a teacher, right?
well,
You are. You have to know that. That's what you got fame, and you got, all of this access, and just like you said, you could have the media at your door at any moment, and you have all of these things. You have this amazing TV show, you've written books, you could do all of these things. And what do you choose to do with that level of social power? You you don't buy the $300,000 car and drive. You teach. That's who you are. So it's funny, you always wanted to be a teacher. You think you needed to go through traditional means to get there. But I see teachers all over the place. All over the place, I see teachers. I see people gain celebrity and all of a sudden get, figure out and become incredibly educated about mental health. And they're talking about it in a way and accessing millions of people with that. That's a teacher. Taylor
yeah.
Swift just got 40,000 people to sign up to vote in like a day. That's a teacher. You all are, that's what you
Oh,
do.
yeah. I
That's
mean, fame is a vapid, vacuous, weird thing. If it is pointed inward in a narcissistic way, it's the most uncomfortable thing to be around in a room with a person like this. And not so much even in entertainment. If you have a narcissistic dentist,
sure. Yeah.
you feel it, and it's a very uneasy feeling. My great friend Marianne Seeley, who's 91, we've become friends over the last 20 years, and every day I talk to her is like my mind explodes with her simple wisdom, with things she says that always reminds me to be where I am, to bloom where I am, to make sure I take time for myself, not in a way that's saccharine or weird or self-serving, but to
Sure.
take time for myself, to care
Yeah.
enough about myself to be healthy and well, and to, because I'm so even keeled. I don't. When I quit drinking, my anxiety went away, my depression went away. Like,
Mm.
I am as even as anyone you will ever meet. My
Right.
behavior is so consistent. And for me to go through the world, so anyone that knows me knows I'm reliable, that I'm a person of my word, that if I have a problem, I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm not going to lie to you.
Mhm.
So Marianne has really instilled in me the value of those seemingly unimportant things in the big scheme of the world. But
Right.
those are that's my bag of tricks, is my character. And I
Mhm.
wish people really understood that. And yeah, I can sling shit on Twitter. I once told a guy to screw his eye socket. I didn't say screw, I used the other word. And I said, it's just a suggestion. But, yeah, and I always defend myself. I'm like, I didn't call him fat. I didn't call him ugly. I didn't call him stupid. I didn't call him anything. I said, you can go your eye socket. It was just a suggestion. What was
Just a
offensive, the screwing of the eye socket or the eye socket? Anyway, people bring that up all the time. Oh, yeah, you're so kind. I'm like, not the greatest thing I ever said, but at the time, it really fulfilled a very primal desire in my heart to say something to this person who was just.
you there is no way you can like the notion that you're always going to keep like this sort of high ground. I'm never going to engage. I'm never There's only so many shots I'll take before I have to give one back. But I have I like to think I have a long fuse, but it's a very short lead. Like once you hit me that one time too many, well, now I'm sorry. Now you'll probably tear a little bit, but that's just the game
Yeah,
we have to play.
yeah.
Um,
Exactly. Well, you keep me posted on the province to
I would love
province
it.
Jan and
Yes,
Joe uh,
I'm into it.
class. I'm totally into it.
I I would love to talk to you. I need sort of a framework, and I will try to build it out. So maybe if we can go back and forth a little bit with that, I'll try to give you what I'm thinking. Because then
Early
it's just
next year would be so prime for me. January, February would be so perfect because I have space.
all right. You want me to create a course by January, Jan? At least you're not setting the
February,
bar too high for me.
February,
No,
February.
no. Listen, you threw it down. I'm gonna now make it happen.
Like
That's
I'm
it.
just thinking January.
Well, it does have a nice sort of tie to it, doesn't it? Yeah,
But
I like
anyway,
it.
I just knowledge is power, and I think there's the way you teach is it's filled with humor and these nuggets of that acerbic, sardonic. I love it because it comes at you, your physicality and how you play to a camera. But it always gets, like I said, when I come across it, I'm like, I gotta see what the hell she's saying.
It's
And
all those hand
but I
movements.
always learn something. I'm always like, okay, true to that. And I keep myself in check too because I'm like, I don't need to be like that. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be
Mm,
that person either. And one thing about me too, when I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong and I
me
apologize.
too.
And
Yes.
I just am like, I'm going to do better next time.
Right.
And I just anyhow, we keep
Amazing.
going and we are built for change and we're here to become people. That's what this whole thing is. We're just becoming people. And it's not this perfect thing. You don't get it right every time. You're like, oh, I did. Oh my God, I'm at another level. What level are you at? I'm at level 1074.
Ting, ting,
Oh my
ting. Yeah.
God, I got to another level. No, it's like up one level and then you fucking fall off the cliff and you're like, Jesus Christ, I'm
Yeah.
starting at zero again.
Absolutely. But it is that back and forth that has to give us that insight, right? That back and forth. If we don't ever fall, we don't all those cheesy cliches. But the reality is, besides picking yourself back up, if you learn something in that minute, you won't fall the same way twice. There's the key. Everybody's always like, pick yourself back up. But people tend to run on the same freaking wheel. If you learned what you did wrong, then you don't ever fall that way again. And there's the power. There's
Yep.
the ability. I talk about being a young teacher all the time, all the mistakes I made. People are like, oh, you're so this, you're so that. I'm like, you should have seen me at year 3. You should have, like, I used to think I could just be their friend. What kind of a moron? Like, you gain perspective if you're willing to be that kind of there's a level of humility, but it's not really that. It's just understanding that, okay, I don't know everything. So if you're going to give me a grain, I'm going to listen and try to apply it. That's it. That's all we have to do.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
All right. Well,
Absolutely.
Listen, I can't keep talking, Jan, because I have a course to create by
In
January.
you've got, listen, you've got 9 weeks. I don't know what the problem is.
So lazy sometimes. Okay, okay, I'm on it. I'm on it. And then and will January. I love the deadline. I do love the deadline.
But I mean,
Thank you so
I
much.
I think it would be fantastic, and I think we could get some people to sign up, and you
Agreed.
and I would both learn,
A
and
hundred percent.
maybe, animal husbandry could have a little light shone on it, and God only knows what those people can teach other people. Like, anyway, thank you for your time. Thanks for thinking of
Thank
me.
you
Thanks
so
for what you
much.
do.
Thank you for what you do. And I look forward to, more discussions, and everybody loves you and you're amazing. And by
Well,
the way, I
that
didn't
is
even
not
mention this
true.
before. You're complimenting me on on making you laugh. You might be the funniest person I know. I'm not gonna like. I've been to your concert. Shouldn't just be. I'm gonna sing. Your concert technically is a stand up and a concert. So anybody that's going, you get and a story time. You get like three different worlds all at the same time, which I love for its authenticity.
It's you got to let people off the hook, and I enjoy it. I really do. I want to send people off feeling like I got this. I can. I'm stronger than
Yeah,
I think I am. And anyway, it's a great privilege to be up in front of people. It's been a great privilege to make my way through life in the arts. I used to
mm,
say to Mom all the time, I go, Mom, here we are, women in the world. And after my dad had died, I said, you're living in your own house, and I'm living in my own house. And I said, we're out in the country, and we have a little garden. And I said, can you imagine, Mom? We couldn't have done this 50, 60 years ago. Women wouldn't have been able. We have our own bank accounts, Mom. I'd like to know what's in my bank account. And I used to tell her, I'd say, Mom, you've got $1 million in there. No, I don't. I said, you do. You saved $1 million. I mean, she didn't, but I thought, I'm going to tell her that. And she just, oh, for God's sakes. I said, Mom, you can buy anything you want. Well, I
good.
wouldn't mind a lemon square. And, and I'm just like, ain't that it, though? It's not a fucking Lamborghini. It's a fucking lemon square. Anyway,
Exactly.
my mom was the funniest, Joe. She was funny. My dad was a tyrant, but this is how it goes. But anyway,
Yeah,
it's a privilege to do that. And I think of being a woman in this world and what I have available to me, that I can speak my mind, that you can speak your
there it
mind,
is. Yeah,
and we can. I know allyship now more than any time in history. I have a trans flag. I have the flag flying out. I'm in the middle of nowhere. There's no one's gonna see it, but you know who fucking sees it every day? Me.
yeah, there it is. Sure.
I see it. And any person that comes in this yard to fix a pipe, to plant a post, to do work on an eaves trough, they see it. I don't care what they think my agenda is or who I am, but I'm like,
Hmm.
you need to know that this space here,
Hmm.
I control it.
Hmm.
And anyway, that's just I wanted to touch on that a little bit. But allyship, anyone listening, gosh, pick up a phone, support your friends. I don't expect you to fly a flag. For some people, that's a very dangerous thing. It
Yeah,
depends
where you
on
live.
what you're.
Sure.
But God, stand up for people. Don't stand up for people. Stand beside people. People you don't know. It's just
There it is.
so important. Anyway, thank you, Joe. We will talk
Thank you
soon.
so
Hey,
much.
now you got less time to make the course. Now you're
Look, you make me sweat through this whole thing, Jen. Come on. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. The course will be coming out soon, and I will see you next Tuesday. Same bat time, same bat station. Dismissed.